The Xbox controller has long been the obvious go-to for PC gamers wanting to do away with the mouse, partly due to the fact that Sony continues to bewilderingly render their popular DualShock controllers incompatible. With Windows 10 and their current generation Xbox One console in mind, Microsoft produced something called the Xbox Elite wireless controller, coming in at a whopping $150 and offering an unprecedented level of customization and control over the inputs. Not one to shy away from a challenge, Razer have since manufactured their own Elite style PC or Xbox One controller, and that's what I have on hand today, the Wildcat, and has some very important differences. One thing is the same though, the $150 price tag. So as an elite or wannabe elite gamer, which one should you pick up? Let's take a look. Design-wise, the Wildcat's very similar to the standard Xbox One controller, and that's a good thing. When you pull it out of the box, it bears a simple, all-black design with Razer's logo on the right-hand side. Packaged with the Wildcat are two Razer green optional add-ons. These definitely make the controller look more distinctive, and I think they make it more comfortable to use too. My only gripe with the grips was the installation process. You have to stick them on yourself, and it's not exactly easy to apply them without any unwanted bumps or folds. Have you ever tried to apply your own window tint? Me either, and that's for a reason. Hopefully the adhesive used will last the test of time, as it would be a real shame if they started peeling off. I certainly can't imagine that you could peel them off and reapply them and expect the same quality adhesion either. The face-up buttons on the Wildcat are the same as those found on the Xbox One controller, and it's as you start to venture around the back that you discover its main points of difference. At the top, just behind the micro USB port, lay the two additional and programmable bumper-style buttons, which are reached by extending your index fingers a little further than normal. These give a satisfying little click when pressed, and I found them easy to reach. I'm not sure how useful I'd find them though, as your index finger is then divided between two sets of bumpers and of course the standard triggers too. Continuing to the underside of the Wildcat, we find two additional triggers that rest right underneath the otherwise unutilized middle fingers. These triggers are a well contoured glossy plastic, and if you don't want them there, you can even remove them with a small supplied screwdriver, and small flaps flip down to cover the holes. Lastly, up front there's a built-in wired headset adapter that protrudes from the bottom of the controller. I've never really understood why this isn't included standard on all Xbox controllers. Even Microsoft's Elite controller doesn't have this fitted by default. The Wildcat's overall build quality is really good, and the weight of the controller feels good in your hand. It's slightly heavier than the standard Xbox One controller, but quite a bit lighter than Microsoft's Elite controller. Once I'm in game and in the zone, I personally forget pretty quickly which type of controller I'm using, and it's only really the extra buttons that make a tangible difference in terms of gameplay. Interestingly, the Wildcat is a wired-only controller, despite the fact that the USB cable is completely removable. This does of course mean that response times will shave some portion of milliseconds away from its wireless counterparts, but I think a lot of gamers investing in a premium controller would at least like the option to go wireless. Programming the extra buttons on the Wildcat is very quick and easy to do. To assign one of the M buttons a function, you simply hold down the remap button and the M button you wish to program, and then press the regular button that you want it to act as. The controller then rumbles to let you know the mapping was successful and you're good to go. Additionally, you can create two button mapping profiles that you can then switch between on the fly too. Gaming with the Wildcat was different, in a good way. The color buttons have a very short travel and very satisfying click when pressed, making them extremely responsive. The thumbsticks feel great too, especially with the optional green rubber pads applied. I think the additional underside triggers are just genius. It allows you to access two more buttons without moving your thumbs off the sticks, and this is obviously a great advantage. In line with the very short travel of the face-up buttons, the trigger locks in conjunction with the Wildcat's hair trigger mode allow you to customize and shorten the travel distance of each trigger. In shooting games for instance, this allows you to fire off individual rounds in much quicker succession. Lastly, the directional pad on the Wildcat forgoes the adjoined four-way design to instead utilize four individual buttons, which I like as I think it leaves less room for mispresses. Overall, the Wildcat is a certain step up from the standard Xbox One controller in terms of customization and functionality. I really like the additional buttons, especially the underside triggers, and how quickly and easily you can assign them their functions. Compared with Microsoft's Elite controller, the lighter weight is certainly an advantage on account of the fact that there's no battery inside, but this also means that it is of course a wired controller. Picking between the two will probably come down to personal preference in that department, especially considering they're at the same price. Thanks for tuning in for another Hardware Unboxed product review. I'd love to hear what you guys think of the Razer Wildcat in the comments. I'm your host Matt as always, and I'll see you guys next time.